Good afternoon. This is Jeremy with Southwestern Montana News, and we had done one of these before with write-in candidate Marla Martinell, and we have another candidate that's running for City Council Ward 1. Her name is Joleen Schultz,
Hi.
and mail-out ballots, they went out today. So the time is coming close to when you can elect a new city council person. A lot of them have ran unopposed, but Joleen is running in Ward 1. She is running for city council. Joleen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about you so that they can get to know you a little better.
Yeah, so I'm a local business owner here in Dillon. I have owned my insurance agency for almost 3 years now here in town. I focus mostly in the ag market, farm, ranch, and equine owners, and that's where I enjoy my job the most. I'm active with the Chamber of Commerce here. I serve as treasurer for them and the Convention and Visitors Bureau here in town. And then I'm also active with the Beaverhead FFA alumni and friends and the Garden Club. I don't know what contribution I make there, but I try.
You have a green thumb?
No, but
Okay.
this is the first year I've kept something alive, so I'm proud.
So that's
I'm
working.
learning. Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to see because a lot of the city council seats that are up for election, a few of those, nobody's chose to run against the people.
Yeah.
You've chose to put your hat in the ring, and it's nice to see that because lots of times I spent 3 years live streaming the city council, and I do think that like we do need fresh eyes, new perspectives. Otherwise, I think people get complacent with that job and they begin to think what they say is law or what they say should go. I know that you've been at quite a few of the city council meetings and you've brought, your opinion to them, which I think we need more people to do that. What type of changes would you like to kind of make, or where do you see it going if you are elected into that ward?
So I have been to a lot of the council meetings, and actually I used to watch them previously when you did stream them. And then I started going in person, and I also watched them from Zoom at home. In the last 16 months, I think that I've only missed 2 when I was traveling or out of state. And so what I see and what I've paid attention to is that I think that there's a lack of communication between people, so that the intent of part of the conversation is sometimes missing for those who are making decisions or having this conversation. I also think there's a breakdown, to be completely frank, in respect for one another and actually hearing those messages. And as a citizen who stood up and voiced some of my concerns in the past, some of the questions that I asked didn't always get answered. And I feel like that your representatives, that is their job, is to hear these things, make you feel like your voice is heard, whether it's the right answer or not, and whether I as a citizen want to hear that answer, it doesn't matter, but I want to know that it was considered, that it was thought of. And so that's definitely something that I want to see. I think there's lacking efficiency, and we're talking about the same thing over and over, or we just don't talk about it for months on end. And we've seen that recently, that's been a concern. And I do think that we need to do better about that, or our representatives need to do better for actually having that engagement with the community.
Yeah, I know one of the biggest things lately was the approval of the city budget. It got put off and actually went past the state deadline.
Yep.
And it seemed like it was just nobody was communicating or checking up on people. And I know everybody wants to say, well, that's the mayor's fault. But actually, kind of the way the city runs is you have a mayor who's the talking head for the city.
Yes.
He can make decisions, but ultimately the decisions are finalized and approved by the city council.
Absolutely. I think that there's 2 purposes for city council, and I think that their main purpose and what their mission needs to be is that they're servant leaders. That's what they're here for. They're representatives. And then the other piece of that is that they need to be good stewards of our tax dollars. And when we're wasting time and not being efficient, or we're going past deadlines, I do think that's an issue. And I don't think that there's one person to blame there. But I also think that there's certain rules when it comes to the budget, that there are people out there who are wealths of knowledge, and they know what these rules are. They know what the MCA says or how we can utilize our funds. And I don't know that the communication lines are open with them.
Yeah.
And how much time would that have saved if we had had a preliminary talk with that? So it was unfortunate to see, but I'm glad that they did get it taken care of.
Yeah, and then, again, I mean, I've sat through a lot of them. I kind of quit live streaming because now they do have the Zoom meetings. And, I'd really, that's the way the citizens, like everybody says, oh, I'm too busy. I can't go down there. And, that's one thing that I would see a lot of is three-hour city meetings that didn't need to be 3 hours
Yeah.
long.
We haven't seen that as much lately. I'll say that most of them are definitely saying under 2 hours. This last meeting that we had earlier this week, quite honestly, it would have been under an hour, except for the public comment section. And there was a person who needed to address a few different things, bringing them up again from the past. And so that went a little bit longer, but they can be efficient.
Yeah.
And when you live stream, I could see the views on there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people from the community who were tuning in certain times, and maybe they weren't watching the whole thing, but they did. On Zoom, there's typically two people from the community who are viewing it, and I'm one of them. So I wish that we had a little more engagement, and it scares me. Like, why are people not watching? Why are they not in? I don't want them to feel like it's hopeless.
Yeah. Do you feel kind of like, do you get a sense that a lot of people's complaints just fall on deaf ears?
Oh, I hear everybody say that.
Yeah.
I hear that, and I think that our leadership needs to do a better job of analyzing why people feel that way.
Yeah.
And just our citizens shouldn't have given up hope.
Yeah. Another thing that I kind of find interesting is, so you're running in Council Ward 1.
Yes,
Most people don't even know what council ward they are in,
that is very true.
or they don't even know who their councilmen are that.
Correct.
And the other thing I find kind of, are we going to have a vacant seat? Because I know George Johnston is not running for that one.
Yeah, so he represents Ward 4. His term is up, and he has chosen not to run again. My understanding, because nobody did put in to be a write-in, so they didn't meet that deadline. So my understanding is that will be appointed by the council at some point. And as far as ward boundaries go, I actually posted pictures of the ward maps the other day because it came up in conversation at one of my meetings that a gal said, oh, I'm in your ward. And I said, I think you're in Ward 4. And sure enough, the boundaries did change back in 2019, and some people don't know that. My ward essentially goes from Dakota Street east and from the college up to the elementary school.
Okay. So if you're living in that section, that's who your candidate's going to be. Unfortunately, I can't vote because I don't live in the city, and that's something I'd like to see change too, is if somebody has a vested interest in this city, that means if they own a business or somehow they're being affected by, a councilman's choices, they should be able to vote.
I've definitely heard a lot of that too, because we have so many people who are technically not within city limits, but they are within miles radius outside of that. And they use Dillon every single day. And so they do have a concern about what's happening here. And I'm not sure what the solution is there. But nonetheless, this community is so important to this county, and we need to make sure that we're doing the best job we can.
Yeah. And then how is with your ways people can get a hold of you, or if they want to know more about you, you've started a Facebook page.
I did. Reluctantly, I'm not the biggest fan of social media, so I apologize for that. But I have started that just so that people have a means to engage with me. There is a dedicated email account as well, and you'll see that on my poster. So please don't hesitate, reach out. I want to hear these things. Whether I am a representative in the future or not, it's probably not going to slow me down from going to these meetings and hearing these things out. And I do think it's important that we get more involved.
Yeah, and I will put all the links to, ways you can get in contact with Joleen, so that if you do have questions, if you're in her ward, that's one thing I really strongly suggest people do. If you're in a ward and you don't like the potholes or you don't like things that are happening in your neighborhood, getting on social media and complaining on the community pages makes no difference.
It's hard.
The person you need to talk to is your council member, or you need to show up for the meetings and voice your concern.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, no matter what ward you live in, you have a concern with potholes. I drive them every single day in every ward, and I know what that looks like. But yeah, Ward 1, Diane Armstrong and Don Hand are your current representatives, and I think it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was kind of nice to see Diane go from a city employee. She retired, and then she filled in for that position, and then she ended up running and winning that. And again, that's another new face on the board. We have Steven Siebert, who's another new face on the board. And it'd be great to see that, because I think people get complacent when they're on there and they don't have anybody running against them. And I think it's something that you need, because maybe it shows those people that are on the city council that they do have competition. There are people that want to replace them, and they want to bring new, fresh ideas. Dillon's kind of a town that's ran on the same ideas for a long time, and there's times where I look at Dillon and it's not the Dillon I grew up in, just because it feels like it's slowly dying.
Well, and that's the hard part, is that you want to stick to your heritage and all of those things, but the world is changing around you. And a lot has changed over your lifespan, my lifespan.
Yeah.
Like, the internet has changed a lot of things. And so maybe our commerce isn't as good here. So I feel like we need to do something to give people more reason to stay, to spend their money and do those things, so that we do have a quality of life here. As far as the council goes, with that, Steven Siebert is one of your candidates who is running the only other race right now. So he's going against Bill Schaefer for that seat. And when I look at that council as it stands, the other thing that happens after people are in there for too long, there almost becomes, you have this history of contention. And then I don't know that everybody is receiving the next person's message, and out of frustration. And that's hard. And I'm not saying that it's not due at some point, but it benefits no one. And it's not serving your community.
Yeah, because people, they argue back and forth, and they hold those grudges, and then they make an opinion of that person, and that person could have the greatest idea, but if the people have already formed their opinion, and it's just human nature.
It absolutely is.
You're going to not listen to it. But the one thing, too, that I like that you bring to the table is you are very active in this community with, the Beaver Head Chamber of Commerce. I've seen you at FFA events and I've seen you push stuff. And that's one thing I'd like to see from all the council members. I see Diane at a lot of them, and I see Russ Schwant at a lot of them.
Steven Siebert gets to a lot of community events, too.
But I don't see our city council, and this goes for our mayor and that, too. It'd be really nice to see them in the Parade of Lights. It would be nice to see them in the Labor Day Parade. It'd be nice to see them coming to the community and showing that they care about it.
Well, and I understand that there are quite a few who are concerned about it becoming an illegal meeting if there's too many of them there. But as long as we are not talking business and none of that stuff gets brought up, I don't think that should ever negate your community support and getting out there and having a face and showing people that you care and that these things matter, or these events are critical to us.
Council members can show up to an event and participate in the event without being a meeting.
I absolutely believe so, and that's fine if y'all have to stand on separate sides of the room. That's okay, but don't let your citizens feel like they're not supported.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things I've heard. I mean, I do the news, and I get told a lot. I'm going to tell you something, don't tell anybody, and it's the hardest thing in the world, but
I thought you were
try
going to spill
not
the
to
beans
do
right
that.
now.
But, that's one of the complaints. This isn't a don't tell anybody complaint or a don't tell anybody conversation, but that's what a lot of business members down in this community tell me, is they feel like the city has nothing to do when it comes to building the businesses of Dillon. And
as a business owner, unfortunately, I felt that way too in the past.
Yeah, and that's something I would love to see changed. And, seeing new face such as yourself running, who's a business owner that can maybe help gap that. Bring
absolutely.
that together and bring those ideas. That'd be a great thing to see on the council, because, your job on the council is to, make sure the city runs. But if businesses go out, you guys lose revenue. And that's the problem. And
I don't know that there's enough. There's so many different groups within this community, but with as small of resources and people that we have, I don't know that having a million separate small groups is as viable as bringing them together. So even having the chamber awareness of what they're doing,
Yeah.
or, you know, there's a bunch of different community groups that I don't know are in constant contact with the city leaders.
Yeah.
And so if the city leaders don't know what's going on, they're not able to assist, or maybe they're not going to hear about a grant potential or some funding out there. And I think we need to be as creative and resourceful as we possibly can, and usually that's going to be better in numbers.
Exactly. Yep. Well, Joleen, I want to thank you for coming in today. Again, the ballots, the mail-out ones, they are going out today. You will be on it. You're not a write-in candidate.
Nope,
so
my name's in there.
look for Joleen. If you want to see some change, I think the best way for change is to shake things up, and the only way you can do that is to put fresh faces in. Otherwise, the same complaints are going to continue. And I encourage people out there, get involved. You know, if there's something you don't like about what's happening, go to a city council meeting, make your voice heard. Don't do it on Facebook in the groups, because most of those guys don't even look at Facebook that are your council members. So you can do that by going to a city council meeting. Zoom in, just zoom in. You can mute it till it's time for, you know, citizens to speak, and then you can speak your mind. So
You can watch it while drinking wine on your couch. I've done it
Exactly.
before.
Yeah.
And get involved, but
Yeah.
you know, bring solutions to the table. Offer those things, because more minds coming together, it matters.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and thank you for coming in.
no, thank you.
And again, you know, shake things up. Vote for new faces. I mean, I hate politics, but I also like to see my
too.
city thrive, and this is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us.
No, please reach out. Let me know what you think. And Election Day is November 7th.
And I'll put all the information so that you can reach out to her in the comments with this story. So have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.